Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that really shook up UK politics. The story of Danny Kruger's bombshell defection. The Conservative Party is over. I mean, wow. Can you imagine hearing that? That's not some random pundit. That's a sitting Conservative MP, Danny Kruger, speaking on September 15th, 2025. And yeah, that announcement sent absolute shockwaves through Westminster. And just like that, he became the very first sitting Tory MP to jump ship to Nigel Farage's Reform UK party. He literally crossed the floor to join what he now says is the real home of British conservatism. Okay, so let's get into the heart of this. What actually happened here, and why is this one defection making such massive news? So you see the basic facts here: who, what, when. But honestly, a bullet point list doesn't even begin to capture how big a deal this is. Kruger didn't just quietly slip out the back door after, more than 20 years with the party. No, he stood up and publicly declared it was finished, done, over as a national force, and then he joined its biggest, most dangerous rival on the right. All right, so to really get why this is such a political earthquake, you have to understand the man who set it off. So, who is Danny Kruger? Well, Danny Kruger's background is about as establishment as it gets. I mean, his mom is the famous chef Prue Leith. He went to Eton, then Oxford for his doctorate. But he's not just some academic type. He also co-founded a really well-regarded charity to prevent youth crime, and even got an MBE for it. And when you look at his career, it's been this really fascinating roller coaster. He was right there in the inner circle, the heart of the conservative machine, first as David Cameron's chief speechwriter, and then later as Boris Johnson's political secretary. But he also took a big step away from it all to focus on his charity work. And now, he's not just stepped away, he's completely abandoned it. It's a heck of a journey. And this right here, this is the absolute core of it. This really gets to the central tension in his political identity. On one hand, you've got the guy who literally penned the famous Hug a Hoodie speech for David Cameron, a call to make the party seem softer, more compassionate. And on the other hand, you have the man he is today, a hardline social conservative, with a voting record that's, well, pretty uncompromising. It's a huge, huge shift. So what's behind that massive shift? Well, according to Kruger himself, this wasn't just some cynical political move. He says it was driven by a really deep, long-held philosophy about what's gone wrong with Britain. When he announced his defection, his reasoning was a straight-up attack on his old party. He talked about a year of stasis and drift. He basically argued that the Conservatives had completely lost their way, that they weren't offering any bold leadership, and because of that, they just lost touch with everyday people. And at the absolute core of all his thinking is this idea he calls the social covenant. He actually laid this out in a report for the government. He's saying we need to move past this simple, transactional social contract. I pay my taxes, you provide services, to something much deeper, something based on shared duties, virtue, and responsibility to each other. And get this wasn't some fringe pamphlet. This report, called Leveling Up Our Communities, was commissioned directly by the Prime Minister at the time. His big idea was that the way to heal a society he saw as broken was to strengthen the core pillars: family, community, and national identity. He even wrote a book about it, and it really lays out his whole worldview. He argues that modern liberalism, with its intense focus on individual freedom, has actually made society weaker. For him, the real foundations of a healthy country are those big institutions: family, community, and the nation itself. He's directly challenging what he sees as a modern obsession with the self. So, this might sound a bit abstract and philosophical, but it translates into some very direct and often very controversial public statements. For example, he's on the record saying that marriage between a man and a woman is, in his words, the only basis for a safe and successful society. Okay, so that's the man and his ideas, but that brings us to the fallout. This is the big question everyone in politics is asking right now. Why does this one single defection matter so much? Well, the aftershocks were immediate, and they were clear. For Kruger, it meant an instant promotion. He was put in charge of Reform UK's Preparing for Government unit. I mean, talk about a statement of intent. For Reform, it's a huge boost, giving them more momentum. But back in his own constituency, total backlash. His local Conservative association immediately demanded that he resigned and face the voters in a by-election. And you have to understand, for Reform UK, this is so much more than just another number in Parliament. It's a massive symbolic victory. They've just recruited an intellectual, a real establishment figure who can help shape and sell their vision of, as he puts it, restoring the system. So how did the Conservatives react? Well, officially, the leadership under Kemi Badenoch tried to play it cool, framing it as a personal decision by Danny, nothing more. But behind the scenes, political analysts are calling it a huge blow, a major hit to the party's morale and its already shaky stability. The controversy even reaches into his own family. His mother, Prue, has spoken publicly about how much they disagree politically. She talks about the backlash she gets on social media, and they've openly clashed on big issues like assisted dying, which she's a passionate supporter of. It just goes to show how deeply divisive his positions can be, even at the family dinner table. So, at the end of the day, Danny Kruger's journey from the very heart of the Conservative establishment to its biggest rival on the right leaves us with one massive, provocative question. Is this just a one-off, a lone wolf making a big gamble? Or is this the first crack in a political dam that's about to break?